everybody. This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get to in the world of volleyball, such as the Kendry does it again, going off not one, but two upsets, taking down Ohio State and Ball State. Are the Bearcats for real? And can we call them the breakthrough Bearcats? Also, in the 3C2A, we had more parts pulling off a massive upset against Orange Coast. The Pirates finally fell down after winning 31 straight matches in almost 2 years. Can the Pirates bounce back? Also, UCLA took down UC Irvine not once, but twice. Are the Bruins back? And who do they have back? Also, the CBF All-Star match was a success, and we have some LSU and NCAA beat level was crazy. The UFC losing a couple matches, but then bouncing back against UCLA, and much, much more. So hand me the volleyball, step it up. Some of us look at the volleyball action here on Set Point. It's Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 287 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. We're trying to reach 400 to 500 subscribers by the end of March. And with your help, you can make it happen. So we would greatly appreciate that. And if you are subscribed, we greatly, greatly appreciate you. Also, make sure to follow us on our podcast, follow iSports Radio on our podcast platforms or podcast platforms in general, such as Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, GeoSavin. The list goes on and on. Also, make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and much more. Also, make sure to check out our Hall of Fame where I was inducted as inductee number 10, and much, much more. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Celia B, as well as Vital Apparel and Raw Nutrition Supplements. And we'll also talk to y'all what iSports Radio is about. So without any further delay, let's get into our sponsors.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors. And we also have another sponsor as well. And our most latest sponsor is Raw Nutrition Supplements. Use the promo code IESR to get 10% off your order. And we would definitely appreciate that if you check them out as well. Don't be shy. You know you want to. So thank you to all those sponsors for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie, and on Instagram at set_point.IESR. And also you can follow me, the host, personally, at Teran Rodriguez 1. Also, thank you. Definitely check out the supporters club for Set Point. I would greatly appreciate it if you did. If you can, screenshot that and then eventually copy and paste it. And also it's in the description of this show as well. If you do decide to be a member of the supporters club, it only costs $5 a month, which is basically the equivalent of a coffee. And if you decide to become a member of the sports club, you will get a shout out on the show on every show going forward. And you will even have the opportunity to be a guest on either the live show of Set Point or Set Point Extra Points. Also, if you become a member of the supporters club for at least 4 months, then I will ship you off an IE Sports Radio t-shirt or tank top. And if you're a guest, you'll get it right away. And much more if you decide to become a long-term supporters club on Spreaker. So definitely keep that in mind right there. Thank you to Kevin Prate for being a donor of Set Point. You are greatly appreciated. And that's another thing. If you want to be a donor, then just feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, which is set_point_ISR. That's the best way you can DM me, because unfortunately X does not permit that. So it is what it is, but there you have it right there. So without any further delay, let us get on into the volleyball action. So we had another amazing week of NCAA men's volleyball as we are in week 8. Most people will call it last week was week 8, but some people call it week 7. But I digress in that regard. So potato. But week 8 was definitely not anything short of in terms of excitement, as it was a very, 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 very fun week. We'll obviously dive on into the big matchup right here, being UCLA and UC Irvine. But we got to go in a little bit of chronological order. So the first matchup that happened in terms of this past week, and of course this thing wants to screw up right away. So Tuesday, since last Monday was pretty much the day off. Tuesday there weren't any notable matchups. I mean, George Mason was able to take down Roberts Wiseland, but that was pretty much it. Wednesday was when the party really got started. We had we might as well just go into the big match. We had number 2 UC Irvine falling at the Bren Event Center to number 3 UCLA in straight sets. Something to note for UCLA is that they actually got Ido David and Sean McQuiggan back from injury. They did not play in the second match in the Long Beach series, as they both had different injuries in the first Long Beach State match. Excuse me for 1 second. Thought I needed to sneeze, but I digress. But yeah, UCLA has had a monster night. The middles were feasting. Sean McQuiggan had 10 kills on 10 swings, a perfect 1,000. He became, I think, the 10th player in NCAA history to hit 1,000 in a certain number of kill attempts. And he became the second UCLA player to hit 1,000. And against that level of an opponent, too, the previous record was Kofi, who, the guy that's now making beats and is now a DJ and whatnot, who was on that 2017 championship run back when UCLA made it all the way to the national championship when they played the book matches at Paul Pavilion. So that was a historic moment for Sean McQuiggan. Cameron Thorne also had a big match too. He had 15 kills. He had over 500. He was big time, and everyone was hoping that he would get like a big match, or most NCAA men's volleyball content creators were hoping that he would have a big match, and he showed up, he stepped up to the plate, and he delivered. Also, Cooper Robinson was pretty solid as well. So great stuff. They also served pretty tough. They got UC Irvine out of system, as they only had one player in double digits in terms of kills, and that was Halir Heno. So overall, I think UCLA, the rumors of UCLA's demise have been greatly exaggerated, or reports of UCLA's demise were greatly exaggerated. So definitely do not count out those gutty little Bruins. Now for UC Irvine, I think this was kind of a little bit of a humbleness right there. I think them getting humbled kind of woke them up. But I think for UC Irvine, they just ran into a buzzsaw. Like UC Irvine just they were not clicking. Well, UCLA was clicking on all cylinders offensively. And then another matchup we had was number 12 CSUN taking down tied for number 8 Grand Canyon in 4 sets and in Northridge. CSUN has been on a tear this season. This is definitely their best season and their best start to the season since 15 years ago, which CSUN I don't even think that team that team could probably hold a candle to this year's CSUN team. This year's CSUN team just continues to wheel and deal, and CSUN is definitely going to make the Big West Conference more interesting. Now, for Grand Canyon, this was kind of the back down to earth loss that they needed, just because they've been through a lot. They unfortunately saw the departure of their head coach, Matt Worley, who went on to Kansas as an assistant coach. So unfortunately, they were kind of due for an L post Matt Worley era, but it is what it is, and it's better they lost now than they lose in conference play, because the MPSF is going to be a gauntlet with the likes of UCLA, USC, Stanford, Pepperdine, and heck, even I can't forget BYU. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Grand Canyon, but this is not the Grand Canyon team from last year. And then also on Wednesday, we jumped to Thursday. We had Hawaii sweeping Belmont Abbey. Belmont Abbey had over 1,100 in attendance. That's actually a attendance record. Keep in mind, their gymnasium only holds up to 1,000. It was standing room only, and Belmont Abbey fans showed up and showed out. Even though Hawaii won on the court, Belmont Abbey fans wound up winning off the court, and they were able to be part of history. So Hawaii stood on business like expected, but Belmont Abbey made history. Then we had Ball State sweeping Lindenwood. Okay, kind of a little bit of an expected result right there. Then we had Loyola Chicago beating Purdue Fort Wayne, another expected result. Then we had a stunner. We had McKendree, the little purple engine that could. This is the reason why I titled it the way that it's titled. McKendree took down Ohio State in 4 sets. The number 17 Bearcats, which only moved up 1 spot in last week's poll, managed to prove everybody wrong, prove everybody that they deserve to be ranked higher than 17. They took down number 15 Ohio State in 4. Ohio State won the first set, but then McKendree wound up gentleman sweeping the Buckeyes the rest of the way. So don't look now, but McKendree is looking really good following that loss to Loyola. Then UC Santa Barbara took down Concordia Irvine in straight sets. And then we had Long Beach State sweeping Grand Canyon. This was kind of a little surprising, but Long Beach State just is a freaking wagon. Remember, Grand Canyon lost most of their team from last year to graduation or to the transfer portal or anything of that sort. But Long Beach State just stood on top of business. Grand Canyon just could not catch a break. They were just at the mercy of Moni Nikolov, as well as Skylar Varga and Daniil Hrusevich. So Long Beach State, there's a reason why they're number 1, and they are showing it. Now for Grand Canyon, I hope this week is kind of the wake-up call that they need, because it's a big week for MPSF play, because they kick it off this week against a pretty good Pepperdine team. Speaking of MPSF play, we had Stanford taking it down Vanguard in 4 sets. Vanguard is a new team in the MPSF. They took the first set against Stanford. Stanford didn't start Teo Snooey, so it was basically all up to Moses Wagner, as well as Nate Clinton and a few others. But Stanford wound up taking the next 3 sets, and they stood on business. That was kind of expected for them to win. I just didn't expect them to lose that first set, and I was a little concerned without Teo Snooey that Stanford might have another slip-up like they did against Masters College, but it is what it is. Then BYU took down Barry in 4 sets. Look, this is maybe going to be a recurring theme, but some ranked teams that do lose the sets to teams that they should probably sweep, I bet you it's probably because they're resting stars. So if you're thinking that a team lost a set because of reasons, it's probably because BYU rested certain starters in the 3rd set or something, just to avoid injury. Then Pepperdine swept Fairleigh Dickinson. Lewis outlasted Quincy in 5 sets. This could have been a big loss for Lewis, because they could ill afford a loss in the MIVA, as Quincy had a big night from one of their outsides. It was Alexander Sosa, who had 29 kills, which was actually a program record. Unfortunately for the Hawks, they just could not pull off the win on the road against Quincy, as they ended the match with a walk-off block. Lewis defended home court very well, as Nico Paula, their libero, had a school record 22 digs, which I thought was pretty darn good if you ask me. Then we had Charleston of West Virginia in the EIVA taking down number 19 Princeton in 4 sets. The EIVA is up for grabs. And on that note, NJIT swept Penn State, or then number 19 Penn State, which you're about to see why they're then number 19 Penn State. But yeah, EIVA madness is just all over the place. Then we had Hawaii sweeping Queens. But back to NJIT taking down Penn State. That was a big win right there. They needed a little bit of a bounce back win against the Nittany Lions, as the Highlanders are for real. The Jersey Grit is for real. Charleston also posted a big win, probably their biggest win of the season. They've kind of been a little underwhelming, but for good reason. I mean, the EIVA, I think, is just down this year. I mean, it's down when Penn State is like ranked very low, and they're in a little bit of a rebuild season as well. Then another intriguing matchup, we had Lincoln Memorial sweeping Fort Valley State. Good win for Lincoln Memorial. I kind of expected that, but Fort Valley State is an up-and-rising team. Remember, that team comes from the SIAC. They don't get as much love as most people expect them to, but it is what it is. And, yeah, they wound up hanging tough against Lincoln Memorial, but Lincoln Memorial just stood on business like the ranked team that they are. Then on Saturday, we had the Breakfast with the Bows, a.k.a. the early matchup, Hawaii taking down Catawba in 4 sets. Now, Catawba winning that third set was historic and monumental just because it's a set that they've won against a top 5 team. And I get it. Hawaii might have had subs in there, but let's let Catawba and some of these other early young programs have these moments. I think that's pretty darn impressive. And when Catawba wound up winning that third set, 27-25, every Catawba fan was just so happy and energetic. I know it might have been against the Hawaii B starters, but I don't care. Catawba winning that set was just darn right impressive. But Hawaii wound up winning the match in 4, and they actually had another matchup against Queens. So it was basically hop, skipping, and a jump away for Hawaii, as they had the North Carolina series. And then we obviously have to go talk about the big matchup. UCLA taking down UC Irvine in 5 sets. A big, big win for the Bruins as they wound up protecting home court, and they took the series sweep over the Anteaters. More importantly, the Bruins have now won 13 straight matches against the Anteaters. Talk about dominance right there. This dates back all the way to the 2018 season, where the Bruins wound up being national finalists. And I said 2017 when UCLA made the national championship. I meant to say 2018 when UCLA made the national championship. But I digress. But yeah, UCLA beating UC Irvine was super impressive. UC Irvine took the first 2 out of 3 sets, and then UCLA just stood on business in the 4th set, and then UCLA got off to a hot start in the 5th set and just did not look back. Another big win, another big match from Cameron Thorne. He led the way with 17 kills. Cooper Robinson had 15 kills. Sean McQuiggan didn't have the biggest night, but he still was solid. Nowhere near as solid as the first night, but you can't expect anything too big from him. Then Penn State got their lick back against NJIT, beating them in 4 sets. Lewis reverse swept Purdue Fort Wayne. Harvard had a great weekend, taking down Sacred Heart twice. Stanford swept Vanguard, a little bit better. Hawaii took down Queens in 4, but Queens winning that set against Hawaii was big for them. Queens plays teams pretty tough for being a young program. So if I'm a Queens fan or a North Carolina sports fan, I'm keeping an eye on Queens. And then we had another stunner from McKendree. They took down Ball State in 5 sets. Tied for number 8 Ball State in 5 sets, as the Bearcats are the breakthrough Bearcats, and they just continue to do amazing things in the EMIVA. Now, could they probably hold a candle to... Now, obviously, their previous losses will say otherwise, the losses to Hawaii and UC San Diego and Long Beach State, but for the MIVA, they have a chance to possibly win it all if they continue to play their cards right. They've gotten the majority of their tough matches out of the way. They got the 2 Loyola matches out of the way. They got one of the Lewis matches out of the way. They got Ohio State out of the way. So eventually it's going to get a lot more easier for McKendree. And as long as they don't get too big for their britches, I think they could probably win the MIVA. At the very least, the regular season. Now, how far can they go in the MIVA tournament? It all depends. But for right now, McKendree is the real deal. Loyola took down Quincy, now that we're talking about MIVA play, in 4 sets, which I thought was a solid win. Ohio State took down Lindenwood in 4 sets. Nice win right there. Belmont Abbey took down North Greenville in Conference Carolinas action. Nice win. Princeton bounced back against Charleston. Another nice win. And that is pretty much that in terms of the notable matches on Saturday. Then Sunday and Saturday we had Long Beach State beating Barton. I'm certain Alan Knight didn't play too many stars. I know he played Moni Nikolov in both matches, but they didn't play too many starters. So not surprising that Long Beach State didn't really struggle too much because they know they have another batch of players that could step up. I mean, because if you start your starters in 3 straight matches on 3 straight nights, it's not ideal. So good strategizing from Alan Knight. By the way, definitely check out my interview with Alan Knight and Sotir Shapanis. I know there were some technical difficulties, and thank you to those that understood, but it was a great interview. Definitely do check out my interview with Sotir Shapanis and Alan Knight. And Fort Valley State took down Benedict in the first SIAC match of the season, so a great win for Fort Valley State. Got to keep an eye on Fort Valley State. You can't sleep on them in SIAC play. And then Harvard took down Sacred Heart in straight sets. Like I mentioned, they had a great week in terms of EIVA play. If they can beat the teams like Princeton and NJIT, I think Harvard can definitely do some damage, and maybe they can make their way to the NCAA tournament or the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament. All right, that is that for the Week 8 recap of NCAA Men's Volleyball. My boy Marcus Los Great pops in the chat room. He says, salute to you too, sir. Ralph Clay says, good evening, Teran. Have a great show. Just spike it. Thank you, Ralph. And Ralph also says, hit that thumbs up button for Teran and support his show. Let's go. Yes, definitely hit the subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button for this video. I would greatly appreciate it. It would mean so much. All right, but that's going to do it for Week 8 of the NCAA Men's Volleyball season. Now for the AVCA Men's Volleyball Collegiate Poll. We had UCLA and UC Irvine switching spots. That's the notable one right there. We had CSUN cracking the top 10, which I thought was amazing. McKendree finally gets the respect they deserve. They jump up 3 spots, which is actually the biggest jump of the week. We had another tie for a certain spot. We had Ohio State and UC Santa Barbara tie for number 16. Lincoln Memorial is still ranked, as well as the other teams. Penn State is still ranked. NJIT jumped Princeton in the rankings, which I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. But NJIT, after their win over Penn State, jumps Princeton in the standings, and Princeton is out of the polls for the time being. But they have a chance to get back this week. But let's talk about Penn State. Penn State, even though they have a sub-500 record, even though they have 4 wins, they're still ranked. It's hard to get rid of this Penn State team. Most people have been clamoring to me, why is Penn State ranked? Why is Penn State still ranked? They have this record. I know people are frustrated at it, but you got to remember, they played a tough schedule to start early on. I think all their opponents to start off non-conference play or to start the season before EIVA play were all ranked opponents. They had Loyola Chicago, they had Lewis, they had UCLA, they had Stanford, they had UCLA again, they had USC, and remember, they had 2 matches against Ohio State that they could not play because of a sickness outbreak in Ohio State. So 0-6 doesn't really do Penn State's confidence any wonders, but at least their strength of schedule looks good. So I'm guessing because of that alone, they're still ranked in the top 20. But yeah, but pretty much everything is even keeled, if you ask me. McKendree finally gets the respect that it deserves. Some volleyball content creators are happy about this, well, most are, and most are calling McKendree America's team, which I don't know if we can go that far. I mean, they're the lovable underdogs that we love to cheer for. Let's get that straight. But I don't know if they're America's team, but we'll have to see. I mean, they've definitely earned my respect. They've earned everyone else's respect. And I think everyone deserves to put some respect on their name. All right, that is that right there. Now let's jump on into last week's Off the Block men's volleyball media poll. So last week's poll was Long Beach State 1, UC Irvine 2, UCLA 3, Hawaii 4, USC 5, Loyola 6, BYU 7, Grand Canyon 8, Ball State 9, and Stanford 10. So who I voted for last week, I voted for, hopefully in time, Long Beach State, UC Irvine, UCLA, Hawaii, USC, BYU, Loyola, Ball State, Stanford, and Grand Canyon. So I was kind of right, as I know I put Grand Canyon. I know I had Grand Canyon a little lower. I had Stanford a little higher. I didn't think Stanford's loss to Masters is too big of a loss, but remember, that's the best team in the NAI. So you got to remember that right there. Now, who did I vote for? No, now that vote might not have counted because I actually got it in a little bit later, but knowing Vinny Lopes, he's probably going to allow it. He maybe allowed it, but regardless, Long Beach State got all first place votes. They got all 9 first place votes. Probably didn't count mine because I got mine in later, but I digress. Anyway, so who did I vote for in this week's Off the Block poll officially? So I voted for Long Beach State 1, UCLA 2, UC Irvine 3. That's kind of obvious. I put USC at 4. I think USC deserves a little bit more respect because even though Hawaii does have they've played a tough schedule. They played McKendree, and that win is starting to look. Their wins are starting to look pretty good. The Princeton's wins are starting to look pretty solid, even though Princeton lost to Charleston. I just think that USC deserves a little bit more respect, even though UC Irvine just lost. But for now, I got to put USC at 4. Then I have BYU 6, Loyola 7, Stanford 8. I put CSUN at 9. I put CSUN at 9 for the sheer fact that they are having a fantastic season. They took down Grand Canyon, and I think they're a little bit more deserving of the 9 spot. And then 10, I had to put McKendree. I had to put McKendree at number 10 just because I feel they deserve it. They've taken down a top 10 team, albeit Ball State didn't have Tanashi Ndabazacheva. I was blanking on his name right there, but Ball State still did not have Tanashi Ndabazacheva, and McKendree's just playing some lights out volleyball. I mean, if you've seen them play volleyball, they are just playing amazing. They go for every ball, and they have a bunch of players that are definitely up for the challenge against any team at any given day. All right, but that is that right there for the Off the Block Bulls. So now let's preview the Week 9 preview, but let's actually do the Week 9 preview just because I have a lot of volleyball to go over. So everyone will call it Week 8, but it's Week 9 for me just because when it comes to the second week of NCAA men's volleyball, I count it as an official week and not of Week 1B, but I digress. So Monday we have Central State taking on Merrimack, and then DUville taking on Roberts-Wiseland. Tuesday we have Barton, Catawba, Central State, Harvard, King, North Greenville. Nice little Conference of Carolinas matchup. Belmont, Abbey, Lees, McRae, Erskine, Emmanuel. And then Wednesday gets the party started. We got UC Santa Barbara, tied for number 16, UC Santa Barbara taking on number 2, UCLA. All right, well, UCLA, now that they've got Ida David and Sean McQuiggan back, I don't see any reason why UCLA doesn't win this match. Now, Santa Barbara does have some good players. They've got George Bruning, Jess Bianchi, Riggs Guy, Owen Lonecar. The list goes on and on. I wouldn't be surprised if Santa Barbara made UCLA sweat. However, if Jess Bianchi is not playing because he did not play against Pepperdine, I'm certain Santa Barbara will not. I don't think they can win against UCLA. UCLA is just a juggernaut right now, and I think they've gotten their mojo back. Then on Thursday, we've got a lot of notable matchups. We got Ohio State, Ball State in some MIVA play, which I think is going to be a very good matchup. Let's see which team bounces back. Well, both teams lost to McKendree, but Ohio State bounced back against Lindenwood. Let's see if Ball State can bounce back. I'm hoping for Ball State's sake that they did not lose to Tanashi Ndabazacheva for the season. Lewis versus Loyola is going to be a great matchup. The Battle of Illinois is definitely going to be a fun little matchup right there. Then you got Grand Canyon versus Pepperdine. That's a nice little MPSF matchup right there. Like I said, Grand Canyon, it's out of the frying pan with one tough matchup and into the fire with another, as Pepperdine's going to be pretty good, especially when they have to play both matches in Malibu. So got that to look forward to as well. I mentioned both matches because the two teams also face each other on Friday, which is a great transition to go into Friday's notable matches. We have NJIT taking on Princeton. Princeton has won 8 straight matches against NJIT. So for those wondering if NJIT beating Princeton will be an upset, no. Until NJIT takes down Princeton, I don't classify that as an upset. Though rankings-wise, it would be an upset, but I just think Princeton is just so good and talented when it comes to taking on NJIT. And then, like I mentioned, Grand Canyon Pepperdine round 2, Vanguard USC. They'll play the first match in Costa Mesa, but I'm certain USC is going to take down VUSC. Again, nothing against Vanguard, but they're just a young team that's still trying to figure things out in NCAA Division 1-2. Well, USC just has a stacked roster. And then Friday, we have UCLA at UC Santa Barbara, round 2 between the Bruins and the Gauchos. I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA kind of had to go 4, maybe 5, but if they sweep Santa Barbara with just Bianchi, that would be surprising. But UCLA, I think, has their mojo back. And that's pretty much it for the notable matches on Friday. Then we jump to the Saturday, which actually begins March 1st, which, God, the year's starting to fly quick. Oh, but before we jump on into Saturday's matches, I forgot to mention the matching series of the week. UC Irvine taking on Hawaii, number 3 UC Irvine at number 4 Hawaii. Another top 5 matchup for the Anteaters. Hawaii, I hope for the Bows' sake, they're able to, get back to their dominance. I know they just beat 4 teams, but let's be honest, I think Hawaii can beat those teams fairly easily. Not trying to disrespect Belmont Abbey, Queens, or Catawba. I just think that Hawaii now needs another stiff competition. They need another stiff opponent to see where they're at. I mean, they split with Stanford. They took down McKendree twice, even though that was early in the season. They took down Harvard, which has looked very darn good as of late. So all in all for Hawaii, I want to see them actually take down a top 5 team. Then we could go into the discussion of if Hawaii deserves to be ranked higher than UC Irvine. And maybe I could put Hawaii higher than USC. But UC Irvine, I want to see UC Irvine rebound after the losses to UCLA. And then also on Saturday, we have Lincoln Memorial taking on Princeton. That's going to be an important matchup for Princeton. If Princeton takes down Lincoln Memorial, I could see Princeton jumping Lincoln Memorial in the poll next week. So got to keep an eye on that right there. And then you have UC San Diego versus Stanford at Stanford. That's going to be a very fun matchup. I want to see UC San Diego have a top 10 win. They need a signature-ish win. They struck out against Grand Canyon, but they definitely have some time before Big West Conference play. And do not sleep on UC San Diego. Bryce Dvorak is a beast of a setter. You also have some other MIVA matches like Lewis at Quincy, Lindenwood at Ball State. You have Purdue-Fort Wayne taking on Queens twice. You have, or not Purdue-Fort Wayne taking, excuse me, had to sneeze for a bit, but you had Purdue-Fort Wayne taking on Ohio State. I meant to say McKendree taking on Queens of North Carolina, so you have that right there. And that is pretty much that. Excuse me while I had to quickly sneeze there. And then Sunday we have Lincoln Memorial taking on NJIT. All right, that's going to be a pretty good matchup right there. I think Lincoln Memorial and NJIT is going to prove which team deserves to be ranked still. I mean, Lincoln Memorial has had some decent wins, but that loss to UC San Diego kind of is glaring at the fact that LMU or Lincoln Memorial I want to see them pulling off a big signature-ish win. And then Sunday we have round 2 between UC Irvine and Hawaii. Interesting that they're playing a Friday and Saturday match, or Friday and Sunday match. It's good, though, just because UC Irvine and Hawaii does not want to play 2 straight matches. It does not work like that. Work like that. Yeah. So that is that right there for the Week 9 preview, or for some that want to call it Week 8, then so be it. But that's that for the NCAA Men's Volleyball Week 9 preview. So we're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we're going to discuss some NCAA beach volleyball, talk some PBF and its all-star match, and much, much more. So keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Cleveland and Columbus sports fans, I've got the show for you. I'm Jen B, host of the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You want football? I've got the Browns, the Buckeyes, the Eagles, the Purple Raiders, and more for you. You want basketball? I've got the Cavs and the Charge for you. You want hockey? I've got the Blue Jackets and the Monsters for you. You want football, aka soccer? I've got the crew and the crunch for you. You want volleyball? I'm going to unleash the fury for you. You want more Cleveland and Columbus sports? I've got them all for you, from the majors to the minors to the college rinks. Catch me, Gen B, every week on the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
How we doing, sports fans? This is Christian Harvey, your host of Gritsville, USA, your go-to show for all things Detroit and Michigan here on IE Sports Radio. Whether you're here for Gritty Lions talk, getting pumped up for the great Detroit sports renaissance, or hating on your neighbor depending on if they were green or blue, we got you covered. Whether you're in the East, West, or Central, we got you covered. Join me as we tackle through all that the great state of Michigan has to offer in the world of sports. Catch me, Christian Harvey, each week on Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Show of the Lane and Gritsville, USA. All of us at IE Sports Radio would greatly appreciate it, and we thank you for your support of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Now let's get on into segment number 2 of Set Point. So let's talk a little NCAA beach volleyball. So week 1 of the NCAA beach volleyball season was a wild one. It was crazy, to say the least. I'm going to try to get through all the beach volleyball that happened this past week or past weekend. So Thursday actually started the season and not Friday. So if I said Friday last week, I apologize. But I actually do want to go over the outlier matches on Saturday, because Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we all know it was the Duke Oklahoma Hawaii tournament. I don't know the correct vernacular of that, so please forgive me. But I do want to discuss some NCAA beach volleyball and whatnot. So let's go over the matches that happened on Saturday. So there were some notable matches that happened on Saturday just because reasons. All right, so this past Saturday, we had Long Beach State, number 10 Long Beach State, taking down number 9 Cal 3-2. So that was a good win for the Beach. Remember, Long Beach State lost to Cal in the previous 2 NCAA tournaments, or National Collegiate Beach Volleyball tournaments, and I think that was big right there. And they also followed that up by beating Pepperdine fairly easily, 4-1. And by beating Pepperdine, Long Beach State actually got their head coach, Mike Campbell, really good guy, by the way, his 200th win. So I really want to get a little bit of a one-on-one segment or set point of, no, I thought the glitch was over. Okay, but I thought Cal, I think, is going to got hit hard in terms of graduation, but Long Beach State had that fire in their belly, and I had a feeling they would find a way to win just because it was their place, and I had a feeling they'd want to use that as motivation. So there you have it right there. That's how what I think of the Long Beach State beating Cal. I don't think it's too big of an upset. I think Cal, that's just more so Cal being hit hard in terms of graduation, more so than Long Beach State being better than them. But Long Beach State does return a good amount of players from last year. And let's keep it a buck. Long Beach State, I think, can be pretty decent. Now, they do have a lot of contenders on their schedule, and they do have the Big West too as well. So you have that right there. So do not underestimate the Beach, but at the same time, Cal Poly is a thing right there. Cal Poly is definitely going to be up there And I think for me, I think Long Beach State can definitely make noise. I just think that for me, they got to really show it. They got to really prove it with like a top 5 win. So I think that was a good win, and congratulations to Mike Campbell. Whenever I go by Long Beach State or for the Long Beach State men's volleyball press conferences to start off the week, I know I see him and I say hi to him while I'm having my breakfast. So fun fact right there. But yeah, now let's go over the Hawaii matchup. So season did begin on Thursday, which I wish I had known that previously. But yeah, Arizona State kicked off the season with a 5-0 win over Hawaii, and then UCLA took down TCU 4-1. Keep in mind UCLA was ranked number 3, while TCU was ranked number 2. And for me, I don't think this is too big of an upset just because UCLA always seems to get the better of TCU. They also defeated Arizona State earlier on, so we had that right there. Speaking of TCU, they bounced back against Stanford, beating Stanford 3-2. So that was a nice little win right there. USC barely beat Hawaii. Yeah, go figure. I didn't think USC was going to struggle that early on. Oh wait, they did. They did so last year. USC took down Hawaii 3-2, but eventually they lost to number 7 LMU for the first time in its program history. They had won 31 straight matches. Perfect 31-0 until LMU Loyola Marymount took them down 4-1. A huge win for the Lions. This was a big week for LMU overall, as LMU followed that USC win off with a 3-2 win over Stanford. So Stanford, I think, is talent. It's just that I think that LMU caught everyone off guard. So you had that right there. And then you also had, this was another notable little result, a little notable nugget. We had Florida State taking down LSU 3-2 in the top 10 matchup right there. So great job to Florida State. That was a huge, huge win for the Noles, and they just seem to have the answer for LSU. No offense to all my LSU friends or fans and whatnot. So, yeah, Florida State just stood on business when it came to LSU. They went undefeated this weekend, and the Noles are still something to watch for. Speaking of Florida State, they and a few others are going to be transitioning into the MPSF. I think Grand Canyon is as well. So that's big right there. So the MPSF just got a whole lot bigger. I think Texas is going to be a part of the MPSF as well. This is the first year of the MPSF in beach volleyball. So remember, no Pac-12 anymore. Anyway, continuing on, we had TCU taking on Arizona State 4-1. That's not surprising at all. TCU is super talented. But they followed that up by losing to LMU 3-2. So LMU they beat not just number 1 and number 5 to start the season. They beat number 2 TCU. What? That is crazy if you ask me. So LMU has really, really showed up and showed out this week. And then you also had UCLA still remaining undefeated as they took down Hawaii. That wasn't too surprising if you ask me. They also took down Stanford in a nail-biter. So good job to UCLA. That wasn't too surprising. But speaking of Stanford, before their match against UCLA, Stanford took down USC 3-2 in nail-biter fashion. So the Cardinal beat USC, which was very, very shocking to say the least. And then USC ended off the day by taking down Arizona State, which was not surprising. So USC had a little bit of a rough first 2 days of the season. And then Saturday, USC, let's just say they kind of rebounded very nicely. But so did LSU in their tournament. So, and then Texas kind of managed to pull off some wins as well. So gotta put some respect on their name as well. So, but yeah, speaking of USC, they were able to edge out TCU in the battle of number 1 versus number 2, and then also UCLA edged out LMU 3-2. So the Bruins went a perfect 5-0 to start the season, which was very nice if you ask me. But notice how I said a perfect 5-0 to start the season. You want to know what happened in their matchup against USC? Because remember, UCLA and USC hadn't played each other until then. USC managed to take down UCLA in a thriller where the last flight was decided 19-17 in a third set barn burner. So USC, even though they had a rough first 2 days, losing to the likes of LMU and Stanford, they finished up strong by beating TCU and UCLA. Now, I imagine UCLA is still going to be the number one in the nation come their next poll, which will be tomorrow. And then you also have you also have LMU going to be number 2. I think USC deserves to be 3. I mean, they did lose to Stanford, but Stanford kind of had a plethora of losses otherwise. But you never know. And that was pretty much that. Stanford also took down Arizona State, and then so on and so forth. Overall, UCLA wound up winning the whole Hawaii tournament and all tournament. I didn't get all tournament, unfortunately, but it was a fantastic first week of the NCAA beach volleyball season. I have to kind of go a little bit faster than normal, but yeah, this beach volleyball season, I think it's up for grabs. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. I think the season is up for grabs. I think between USC, TCU, UCLA, LMU, Cal Poly, maybe Stanford, maybe a few others like Florida State, I think those teams can contend for the national championship. I'm not going to say that USC is done for because they showed against TCU and UCLA that they still have it. But I think that they are going to be a tough out for everybody if they can figure things out. All right, but that is that for week 1 of the NCAA beach volleyball season. So for week 2, we have a lot of matches to go over. Washington, Georgia State, and Washington FIU apparently play today. So you have that right there. And apparently this website the NCAA website is just so out of whack. But I digress. So other than that, let's just jump to Friday, where there's a lot of notable matches right there. I guess for Nebraska fans, if you want to see some Nebraska women's volleyball, they play Wayne State, which I think is pretty cool right there. Junior college versus NCAA program. Now, you got to remember that Nebraska's NCAA beach volleyball team or beach volleyball season is basically just off-season for their women's indoor team. And then I think in like March or early April, they transition over to indoor off-season where they just practice and they just start to get better and whatnot. So if you're thinking Nebraska's going to win the national championship in NCAA beach volleyball, you might want to rethink that one. Anyway, so for this week in terms of notable matches, going off of it on the limb, you got Long Beach State, UCLA. Look, I like Long Beach State. I think they're a solid team, but UCLA, looking at them, other than the loss to USC, they just look really good. And I know they had a few close calls against Stanford and LMU, and they had the tough loss against USC, but UCLA looks really good to start. Now, is it impossible for Long Beach State to beat UCLA? No. I think Long Beach State definitely has a boxer's chance or a fighter's chance. I just think it's going to be a little tough for the Beach to take down the Bruins. But you never know with what's been happening. Maybe Long Beach State teaches us all something. And then we have Washington LMU. That is going to be a good matchup right there. That's another notable matchup right there that I think can definitely catch everyone's interest. LMU, I want to see them build off of this. I mean, and then I was going to say Pepperdine USC is going to be a good matchup, but after Pepperdine had a not so good week against Cal and Long Beach State, I think they're going to be at the mercy of the women of Troy. And then you have Long Beach State, Cal Poly. Another big test for Long Beach State. I want to see Long Beach State pulling off some sort of big win. I want to see them pulling off a signature win. Now, it seems like whenever they play Cal Poly, they seem to always get the better of the Mustangs. I don't know why, but this year's Cal Poly team is a little bit more different. They've got a bunch of young talent. They returned Ella Scott, I think her name is. Ella Scott and Lindsay Sparks, Quinn Perry, so on and so forth. I really think Erin Inskeep, can't forget about her. I think this Cal Poly team is going to be a wagon this year. In terms of beach volleyball, of course. Not indoor volleyball as of right now, but you never know with that. So just saying. All right, but that's Friday's notable matchups right there. Saturday, there's nothing too notable, and then there's nothing on Sunday. So there you have it right there. I know I kind of skimmed through that. It looks like a little bit of a quiet week, but there is some notable NCAA beach volleyball matches, and who knows, maybe we can get some more stunners as the week progresses. So we shall see. All right, that is that for the NCAA beach volleyball week 2 preview. So let us recap week 7 of the Pro Volleyball Federation, as well as preview week number 8. So the PVF happened. So week 7 of the PVF happened on on Thursday. So we had a full slate on Thursday, and someone that pointed this out, Larry Hamill of Volleyball Magazine, he said that certain matches got certain number of views. Orlando Valkyries and Vegas Thrill got like 7,000 on YouTube, and then Indy Ignite and Atlanta Vibe got like 2,000, and then Columbus Fury Grand Rapids Rise got like little under 100 and whatnot. Or no, not like that. I think it was like somewhere in like the 200s. I don't know the exact numbers, but honestly, look, the certain amount of matches or the magnitude of each match is kind of puts a perspective into things. Like, for example, Orlando Vegas Thrill is the battle of two top teams in the PVF. Indy versus Atlanta is the battle of two teams still trying to find their way, trying to find out which team will probably be finishing in the top four or could be finishing in the top four. Columbus Grand Rapids Rise, I don't like saying this, but this is kind of the least popular of the four. But it kind of had some storylines. I mean, both teams are still trying to find their way. And then Omaha versus San Diego, that storyline is pretty much is the San Diego Mojo going to finally break out of their funk? Spoiler alert, no. So going down the line, the Ignite took down the Vibe in Fishers Arena in 4 sets, which I thought was pretty good right there. Indy needed that one just because I thought they were kind of on the struggle bus, and I think Indy is going to build off that. Orlando swept the Vegas Thrill, which, look, Vegas had a very bad loss on Monday. So right as when I logged off and when I got done with the show, I saw the Columbus Fury Vegas Thrill match where the Fury took down the Thrill in 4 sets. That was a big win right there for the Fury, and that could be the win that turns it around. And then the Valkyries, like I mentioned, they swept the Thrill. Something's telling me that the Thrill kind of need a little bit of a jump start to their team. I know they have a lot of good talent like Cameron Hanna, Charity Looper, Hannah Maddox, but I just think that loss to Columbus, I just think left a bad taste in their mouth. In the defense of the Thrill, remember, they hadn't played a match in like 9 or 10 days. So Vegas losing that matchup against Columbus kind of can be passable, but it doesn't do their confidence any good. Speaking of the Fury, they built off that win over the Thrill, and they took down the Grand Rapids Rise in 5. Don't look now, but the Fury have won 2 straight. Can they keep it up, though? And then the Supernovas took down the San Diego Mojo at Viejas Arena in 4 sets. Now, that match did require overtime in set number 4, but you got to give credit to the Supernovas. They were down 24-22. Coach Bird calls a timeout. Eventually, the Supernovas tied up at 24-24. The Mojo just could not put away set point to force the 5th. Supernovas take it. They smelt blood in the water. End of discussion. Supernovas are starting to look like the team that I thought they would be. And let's be honest. Omaha, I think, is kind of over the whole MLV news. I think that MLV news really shook them to their core. And I think that's kind of what led to that dreadful week that they had. And also the whole losing to Orlando in straight sets thing as well. So now let's move on to Saturday. So Saturday there was only one match, and that was the all-star match between Team Shondell and Team Collier. First and foremost, this took place at Fishers Arena. Second and foremost, this was a sold-out event. Over 6,927 approximately at this event, and I thought this was a very, very cool event. So there was actually a target score when it came to this. So there was a target score to like 57, 58 points. And then Team Shondell, but for classic volleyball terms, it was just a have fun match, but there was still defense played because everyone and their moms does not play defense when it comes to the all-star matches. Like the Pro Bowl, there's no defense. There is no defense played in an all-star match. There is no, I can't, I mean, the MLB is pretty good when it came to having home field advantage. And then the NHL, I think, might have the best all-star match. But the PVF might be challenging them. So basically, this was a very fun match. It was the first ever PVF all-star match. And Team Shondell took down Team Collier 25-22, 25-20, and 15-10. So in the all-star format, Team Shondell wound up winning by the whole score of 65-52, but in true volleyball formation format, it was Team Shondell taking down Team Collier in 3 sets, which I imagine this was still like it played in a little bit of a fun format. So, long story short, points actually mattered when it came to being scored and whatnot. But everyone had a fun time, and that's pretty much all that matters. As corny as that sounds, it still was a historic all-star match, which actually had defense being played. Brooke Donaviller led the way for Team Shondell with 11 kills. Then Azani Teeler had 10 kills. They got 20 assists from Alicia Glass-Childress, 10 assists from Gudapard, Pornpon Gudapard, or Shampoo Gudapard. So her first name is actually Shampoo. Thank you to Laird Hamill for telling me that. So Shampoo Gudapard. So I've been trying to find her actual name that she goes by, but Shampoo Gudapard had 10 assists, took along with 2 digs. Carly Snyder had 9 digs, took along with two kills and whatnot. And then Team Collier, they didn't have one player in double digits in terms of kills, as Brittany Abercrombie led the way with 8 kills. She continues to have a fantastic season. You also had Sydney Hilly with 14 assists along with 6 digs. August Rasky, she had 11 assists along with 5 digs. Kylie Murr had 10 digs. So overall, it was a great all-star match, and I know it was exclusive to CBS Sports, but if you got CBS Sports, bully for you. So we did have a match after the all-star match, and I'm just going to say this. That is such an inconvenience for any player that plays on the Atlanta Vibe or the Columbus Fury. Like, what team or what player wants to go on a plane from Indiana all the way to Columbus? I mean, for some that live in Columbus or that are on the Columbus Fury, it's no big deal. But for the Atlanta Vibe, they have to go from Atlanta to Indiana, then quick turnaround to Columbus. I don't get that. Like, that's the only negative I have with the PVF when it comes to this whole All-Star weekend. I just don't approve of it. I think that is kind of a thing that I frown upon, just because for Columbus and Atlanta players, this kind of makes you want to question, do you really want to partake in the All-Star match? Because you have another important match the day after. So I think that's the one black eye when it comes to the All-Star match, when it comes to the PVF. And it's no big deal. I think it's still in their first year, and maybe they didn't know that this was going to happen. And maybe they could have done something better. But anyway, Columbus Fury took down the Atlanta Vibe in straight sets, 25-19, 25-20, and 25-23. I'm going to say this like I truly mean this. Don't look now, but the Columbus Fury have won 3 straight matches. And the quality of opponents that they've taken down are pretty solid. They take down the Thrill. They took down the Vibe. The Rise, I kind of figured they would win against, but it is what it is. The Fury were led by Isabella Ratpax, who had 15 kills and she had 13 digs. Not bad, if you ask me. Reina Terry had 13 kills to go along with 8 digs. Wilma Rivera had 32 assists and 9 digs. So don't look now, but Columbus Fury is no longer the worst team in the PVF. So good job to the Columbus Fury regarding that. Whereas the Atlanta Vibe, they were led by Leah Edmond, who had 12 kills. Corey Lewis had 9 kills. So long story short for this team, I did not expect a loss, especially since they had players like Merritt Beeson and Taylor Head. If they didn't have those players, if they were very short-handed, I can understand them losing, but I can't forgive that. No. The Vibe needed that win in the worst way, and unfortunately, they did not get it. And the crazy thing is that the Columbus Fury didn't have Megan Courtney Lush, which that's a tough loss for the Fury. Losing her might have been the worst thing for her. I mean, they lost her she got injured in the match against the Grand Rapids Rise, and they won that match, but at what cost of Megan Courtney Lush? And hopefully she's okay, but she did need crutches, and she wasn't putting any weight on one of her legs that she got injured, or one of her feet that got injured. So that is tough right there, but sometimes that happens. Injuries happen. All right, but that is that for the Week 7 recap. Week 8 preview. First, I want to give a shout-out to the chat room. Dre Area, a.k.a. Andre Fernandez, chimes in. He says, "What's up, Teran?" He says, "Have a great show." Thank you. And then Dan, aka Die Hard, pops into the chat room. He says, having a great show so far, Teran. Volleyball deserves more national coverage. My man, this could not be far from the truth. And not just for NCAA women's volleyball, NCAA men's volleyball too. But volleyball altogether needs coverage. That's why the PVF had this all-star match on CBS Sports for reasons of they want to grow the game of professional women's volleyball and whatnot. So, yes, definitely volleyball needs more national coverage. And why not put it on ESPN? If you show the game, you can grow the game. That's why it's also on FS1, FS2, as well as CBS Sports. And that's why it's got a partnership with Volleyball World, which is a volleyball streaming service which is exclusive to like international matches and whatnot. But I digress. It's also the sponsor of like LSU Beach Volleyball for all of their matches. And they'll also be streamed for free. So there's that. All right, Week 8 preview of the PVF. It all starts Thursday. We get a barn burner right out the gate. Orlando Valkyries at Omaha Supernovas. First place is on the line. These two teams are looking like the teams that I thought they would be. The Valkyries are looking like the improved team that everyone projected that would finish in the top 2. Omaha is looking like the team that I knew would defend their crown. We got 3 matches on Thursday, by the way, so this one is going to be fun, and I can't wait to see what happens. Don't be surprised if this one is a barn burner. This one's a barn burner. This one's sold out. So we play at Citation Health Center in Nebraska. So I want to see a barn burner between these two teams. Give me something really good to watch and cheer for. At the same time, happening on FS1, we have the Vegas Thrill taking on the Indy Ignite. All right, I want to see what the Vegas Thrill has in store for us following 2 straight losses. And the Indy Ignite looks like they've got a little bit of their confidence back after beating the Atlanta Vibe. But I really want to see what the Thrill can do after suffering 2 straight losses to the worst team in the league and also to one of the best teams in the league. So the Thrill have really got to get it together because they're still in a good position. If the season ended, they would be postseason bound. But honestly, I just think they still have a lot more to give, and I think those 2 losses don't do them any justice. I think the Fury loss does not do them any justice because they were rusty, and then eventually the Fury just had that it factor to them. And then the final Thursday match will be the San Diego Mojo hosting the Grand Rapids Rise. Look, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but this might be the less appealing of the 3 matches. And that's no disrespect to San Diego. San Diego needs a win in the worst way. And if they don't win this match, I don't know where the win's going to come. Will it come against Columbus? Will it come against a stunner? Like, I don't know. But honestly, Mojo really need a win in the worst way. They're dead last in the league. And this is kind of what some are saying that the Mojo would be, but I digress. The Rise also kind of need to bounce back. So let's see how they do after they had a week off. Same with the Mojo. Then on Saturday, we have 2 matches. We have the Atlanta Vibe versus the Orlando Valkyries, the smackdown in the South. All right, well, I want to see the Vibe actually play like they were supposed to be the projected number 1. Orlando is living up to their hype. The Atlanta Vibe are certainly not living up to their hype. I want to see the Vibe actually doing really good on their season. I want to see what the Vibe can actually do because the Vibe were selected to finish first in the PVF regular season. So far, I don't think that's going to be happening. And they need a signature-ish win. Probably against Orlando, maybe against Omaha. Speaking of Columbus versus San Diego, that's going to be happening on Saturday, which is actually going to be taking place in San Diego. All right, well, this is the official bottom of the match, the bottom of the barrel match. But the Fury have so much more confidence now. I should also mention for the Indy Ignite, they did get to see the debut of Anna DeBeer following her injury from the NCAA Women's Volleyball National Semifinals. But the Indy Ignite are going to get a nice little boost right there. But back to Fury Mojo. This is the last place battle. But the Fury are looking like they're becoming a better team than they were projected to be. So if the Fury can continue to play like they are now, I think the Mojo stand no chance. I don't care if the Fury are going from East Coast to West Coast. I think with how the Mojo are playing, they're playing solid volleyball, but they're just not able to close out these close sets. So you have that right there. And then Sunday, we have another doubleheader. We have the Indy Ignite at the Omaha Supernovas. Like I said, Indy could definitely use a signature-ish win against an Omaha team that is looking like a very, very good program right now. Omaha is playing really great volleyball, so don't be surprised if they win, but also don't be surprised if they have to grind it out against the Ignite. And then also on Sunday, we have the Grand Rapids Rise at the Vegas Thrill. God, if the Thrill don't get at least one win this week, then they might be in trouble because looking at the standings right now, the Vegas Thrill went from the first place team all the way to the third place team, and they're only one full game ahead of the Ignite. At the same time, they're a half a game back of Orlando based off of number of overall matches played against one another. So Supernovas lead the league, but the Ignite can definitely use a signature-ish win. The Thrill could use any sort of win whatsoever because if the Ignite want to continue to light up the competition, they actually have to beat some big-time teams. They can't just play San Diego every single night. It does not work that way. And they can't just play Atlanta every night. Like the Indy needs a big-time win. And the Omaha Indy match could actually be a playoff preview because if the season ended today, the Supernovas and Ignite would be facing one another while the Valkyries and the Thrill would be facing one another. So I want to see I want to see the Ignite actually showing up and showing out. And I also want to see the Thrill attempting to bounce back after losing to the Fury as well as the Valkyries. So I think we're still in for the best PVF volleyball that's yet to come for some of these squads. And hopefully for most of these teams, they're at full strength, but I digress. All right, that is going to do it for the PVF Week 8 preview. We're going to take ourselves one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got the LOVB Week 7 recap and the Week 8 preview, as well as a little 3C2A men's volleyball talk and some high school boys volleyball talk. Keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What does he want on the head?
Hey, yo, what's good, Georgia? It's your boy ACS, and if you love sports from the Peak State as much as I do, then Georgia Sports Central is your one-stop destination for down south sports, courtesy of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you a Yellow Jacket at heart, or do you bleed the red and black of the Bulldogs? Do you keep it true to Atlanta with Trae Young, Capella, and the boys? Do you rise up with the Dirty Birds on Sundays? Are you excited to see what the future holds for Michael Penix Jr., Bijan, and the rest of the Falcon squad? Do you live at 755 Battery Avenue? Do you rep for Albies, Acuna, and the rest of Braves country? If so, then let's get united every Wednesday for some Braves, Hawks, UGA, Georgia Tech, Atlanta Dream, Falcons, and more on Georgia Sports Central, only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the final part of Set Point here on IH Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as Georgia Sports Central with ACS, as well as Citation Weekly with Adam Karnick, which is back this week after Adam had a little bit of a bout with the flu, but I'm glad my boy Adam Karnick is back and ready to do his thing. All right, so let's close off the show. Let's talk some LOVB. So week 7 following the Kansas City Classic or the LOVB Invitational or LOVB Classic. I like Kansas City Classic. That sounds like it rolls off the tongue very well, but I digress. Anyway, but week 7 took us to Austin for the Weekend with Love. So it actually started on Wednesday when LOVB Austin hosted Houston. Before we get on into that matchup, LOVB Austin actually had a coaching change. So this was the first coaching change in LOVB. So Austin made history in more ways than one. But they also took down Houston in 4 sets. So yeah, LOVB Austin, despite having a coaching change, hiring a former BYU coach following the departure of the previous coach, LOVB Austin took down LOVB Houston in 4 sets. Now, granted, Houston did rest most of their starters following the LOVB Classic Championship match. So I don't think we can define Houston too much on this, but Austin looks pretty solid if you ask me. So LOVB Austin obviously got their lick back against Houston. They finally got a win over Houston after losing the previous matches. So good for Austin. And I won't think of this too much for LOVB Houston. And then on Thursday, we had LOVB Houston taking on LOVB Omaha. Now, this was going to be the worst thing for LOVB Houston. LOVB Houston having a second of a back-to-back. But thankfully for them, being so talented that they are, having so many talented players like Jess Merzick, Jess Merzick, Amber Igidi, just to name a few, they were able to sweep LOVB Omaha, which I thought was very surprising. I was very shocked to see that LOVB Houston swept LOVB Omaha, but that's what happens when you do have to rest your starters. So the Houston coach is thinking 2 steps ahead. So good job to LOVB Houston. And other than the loss to Austin, this LOVB Houston team is looking pretty good. Ever since they wound up beating Omaha in the LOVB Classic and going the long way to winning the LOVB Classic, I think this Houston team is out to prove that they can contend for the championship in LOVB. Also on Thursday, we had LOVB Austin continuing their winning ways as they took down LOVB Salt Lake in 4 sets. Now, this was kind of crucial for both of these teams, as both those teams were kind of in the middle of the road, but Austin did have that edge to them, and I think switching coaches, and even though this was the second of a back-to-back, though they didn't have to travel, I think it's paying dividends for this team. So great job to LOVB Austin, and they closed off the Thursday slate with the win, and they went 2-0, just like LOVB Houston. Now for Friday, we had the best team in LOVB versus the worst team in LOVB. LOVB Atlanta did actually have to outlast LOVB Madison in 5 sets. Atlanta took the first 2 sets. Madison took the 3rd and 4th set in close fashion. And then LOVB Atlanta edged out. Well, they didn't edge out, but let's keep it a buck. They wound up dominating the 5th set for the most part. And honestly, Atlanta is still one of the best teams in LOVB. Now, unfortunately for Houston, the LOVB Classic doesn't count toward the record. So LOVB Atlanta is still the best team in the league, but Houston's right on their coattail. So do not count out LOVB Atlanta by any means. Then looking at week 8, it all starts Thursday when LOVB Houston hosts LOVB Salt Lake. All right, well, first and foremost, let's look at the standings just because a lot has happened. So LOVB Atlanta is still in first place. They have only lost 1 match, which I think is pretty impressive. And that loss was unofficially to Houston. So I can't really define what that match actually was, but I digress. Probably was to Omaha, knowing everything said and done. So LOVB Atlanta still leads the LOVB standings. We got LOVB Houston in 2nd place, a half a match ahead of Omaha, who is 3rd. But they have lost 3 in a row if we're dating back to the LOVB Classic. So LVB Omaha's kind of got to get it together here. LVB Austin has won 3 straight if we're including the LVB Classic. Don't look now, but this LVB Austin team might actually be more strategic than normal. LVB Salt Lake is 5th as they are 3-6, having played the most matches of everybody. Then LVB Madison is bringing up the rear at 1-7. So tough for LVB Madison, but it is what it is. All right, looking at Week 8 of the LVB season. So Week 8 starts with LVB Houston hosting LVB Salt Lake. Well, if Houston wants to continue their rise to the top, this would be the perfect match to continue their winning ways. They'll be playing at the Fort Bend County Epicenter. So it's not going to be at HEP Cedar Park. It's going to be at Fort Bend County Epicenter. So for LVB Houston, I would be kind of shocked if they lost this one. I think for Houston, this is kind of the match that they need to continue to build off their momentum and build off their winning ways. And then weekend with LVB for Week 8 heads to Madison, as Madison will be hosting Omaha to start weekend with LVB. Well, that's kind of a bad way to host a weekend with Love. And man, if there's ever a match that Omaha needs to win, this is the one. If they lose this matchup, then I don't know what to really say, because Omaha has looked really out of it of sorts, and maybe they got to make some tweaks to their lineup or whatnot. But Madison, they got nothing left to lose, but at the same time, I just don't see how Madison can take down Omaha. Then we've got a doubleheader on Saturday. We have LVB Atlanta taking on LVB Omaha. Well, this is kind of a big week for LVB Omaha. I think Omaha can definitely do some damage. I think Omaha can beat Atlanta, but at the same time, I think that Atlanta just has the better firepower on their team, and Omaha is just going through it. They're just going through a tough time right now, and I don't understand, just because they've got a lot of talent on the team. My only issue with them is, I think for Omaha, and this is gonna maybe miff a lot of Nebraska fans, I think they might be a little too homerish. Yes, Allie Batenhorst is amazing, as well as Justine Wong-Orontes and Lexi Rodriguez and Lindsay Krause. But you kind of got to wonder, do you want to pick talent over the homegrown players? Maybe I'm making too big of a deal of it, but I don't know. I mean, I think Omaha is still maybe the most talented team on paper, but Atlanta is really proving me wrong, and Houston's proving me wrong too. And I forgot to mention, Atlanta's lone loss was their first loss of the season, so we can't really count the loss to Austin in the LVB Classic. So Atlanta's true and official loss of the LVB season was to LVB Salt Lake to start the season. So look, until LVB Omaha has like none of the talent, no real good talent, and they're going through like a funk and whatnot, I don't think that they're going to roll over against Atlanta. Will it be tough because they're playing the second of a back-to-back? Yes. But Atlanta, I imagine Atlanta would win, but I'm not going to count out Omaha by any means. If Atlanta wants to win, they got to put their foot on the throat when Omaha is down for the count. And then the second matchup is LVB Austin taking on LVB Madison. If Madison wants to continue its climb to the top, again, just like Houston with Salt Lake, I think Austin needs to capitalize and take down a reeling Madison team. Like, I don't know when the next win is going to be coming from Madison. They're going to have to really play some darn good volleyball. They have the talent. Let's keep it a buck. But honestly, Madison has just been so underwhelming in my opinion. And this is no disrespect to them. But I just think Madison is going to have a pair of two tough matches. I mean, Omaha is really good, and Austin has been playing great volleyball as of late. So that's something to look forward to. And honestly, don't be surprised if Madison sadly goes 0-2. I don't want them to go 0-2. I'd like for them to prove me wrong, but it is what it is. All right, but that is that for the LVB portion of this show. Let's talk a little 3C2A men's volleyball. So last week was probably the best and biggest week of the 3C2A men's volleyball season, as Moore Park stunned Orange Coast in 5 sets last Thursday. And the final set, the fifth set, was decided 34-32. We talk about UC Irvine's match against USC in round 1 at the Brent Event Center being a marathon, being 27-25. OCC and Moore Park said, hey, hold our volleyball bag. We're going to take it up a notch. And man, but I'll just be honest, I'm going to give my 2 cents on this matchup. Orange Coast has no one to blame but themselves. They had so many opportunities to win, and it looked like they were at full strength. I mean, maybe they're still tinkering with their lineup, but honestly, they did have players like Cam Vakilian, Noah Keelan, and Andrew Kargas. It's just that I just thought that they missed way too many serves, mostly in that 5th set. They had too many gaps. They had a shanked free ball, which eventually went for a point to Moore Park when OCC had match point. They also had a blown opportunity over, which eventually saw them. Yeah, the ball was served and it was kind of shanked by the Moore Park defender, and then it went right into the block of the overpasser or the blocker ready to put down the overpass kill, and just went onto the OCC side. So OCC has, this loss is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. A bad thing because OCC could have definitely won this. Good thing because they don't have the pressure of staying undefeated and having that win streak dangling above them. And it's only their first loss in almost 2 years. So now for the Moore Park side. Moore Park deserves a lot of credit for this win. The fact that they defeated a talented OCC team at home is just outstanding. And Moore Park hasn't had too many big-time wins. They've had okay wins. Their best win was against Irvine Valley, but I will just say I think they definitely needed a big breakthrough win, and they got it. So great job to Moore Park. All right, backtracking one day, we had Golden West taking down Long Beach City in 4 sets. So Golden West took down Long Beach in the first 2 sets, and then Long Beach won the 3rd set, and then Long Beach looked like they were going to force a 5th set, but they wound up dropping that 4th set 23-22. The 3C2A website has it shown 25-22, but I digress. So Golden West, they're still one of few undefeated teams, or one of 2 undefeated teams to be exact. Miramar took down Fullerton in 4 sets, which Miramar kind of needed a little bit of a comeback following in the 4th set, but they were able to take the 4th set in the match after Fullerton won the 1st set, and then Miramar gentlemen swept them. San Diego Mesa, which is the other undefeated team in the 3C2A, they took down El Camino in straight sets. Irvine Valley, which only has 1 loss, they took down Santa Monica in straight sets, which isn't too big of a surprise. And then Antelope Valley got their first win of the season in the battle of the winless teams as they took down Santiago Canyon in straight sets. God, you got to feel for Santiago Canyon, and especially their head coach, Tim the Bear Johnson. He's a fantastic coach, former OCC great. And then Friday, we had Moore Park taking down Grossmont to kick off Friday's matches in 4 sets. Santa Barbara took down Palomar in 4 sets. Golden West took down Santa Monica in 5 sets. That was a crazy match. The first 3 sets were all decided by 2 points. Golden West won set 1, and then Santa Monica won set 2 and 3 by 2 points in overtime. And then Golden West wound up kicking it into overdrive in sets 4 and 5. And then Santa Barbara took down Grossmont in straight sets. Moore Park took down Palomar in straight sets. San Diego Mesa took down Fullerton in straight sets. Long Beach City took down Irvine Valley in straight sets, which I thought was pretty impressive on Long Beach's part. Remember, this is a Long Beach City team that always is good, but remember, this year they've got a first-year head coach, and it looks like they're in the midst of a little bit of a rebuild. And then you also have San Diego Miramar taking down El Camino in 4 sets. That's not too surprising. And then Orange Coast bounced back with a solid 3-set win over LA Pierce. And they followed that up with a 3-set win over Antelope Valley. So the reports of OCC's demise were greatly exaggerated. But I digress. All right, so 3C2A this week in men's volleyball. So you have Santa Monica taking on Santa Barbara. Conference play kicks off this week. And this week is going to be the biggest week for some teams. Santa Barbara, Santa Monica is going to be a big matchup. Then Wednesday, we have Golden West, Grossmont, LA Pierce, Fullerton, San Diego Miramar, Santiago Canyon, Irvine Valley at Palomar, Antelope Valley at El Camino. And then the big matchup, San Diego Mesa at Orange Coast. This is a rematch of last year's state championship where OCC defeated Mesa in straight sets on their home floor, on OCC's home floor. So I really want to see what OCC can do following a week after they suffered their first loss of the season. And for Mesa, they have a lot of firepower on their team. They returned their top guy, Trevor Clark, as well as their left side. So I think for Mesa, they're going to really make it tough for OCC. But it's all about responding. If OCC can respond well after suffering its first loss of the season or first loss in almost 2 years, I think they have it made. Then Thursday, we have Long Beach City at Moore Park. Well, if Moore Park wants to really prove themselves, I think a win over Long Beach City would also do themselves good. They beat Long Beach last year, but I will say I think maybe a win over Moore Park would a win over Long Beach would definitely do them wonders. And then on Friday we have Santa Barbara City at El Camino, Orange Coast at San Diego Miramar, Long Beach City at LA Pierce, Santiago Canyon at Grossmont, Fullerton at Antelope Valley, Moore Park at Santa Monica, San Diego Mesa at Irvine Valley. That's going to be a fun one right there. I think San Diego Mesa at Irvine Valley is definitely going to be a fun one. And then Palomar at Golden West closes off the slate of matches for that Friday and for the week entirely. So there you have it right there. And that's going to do it for some 3C2A men's volleyball talk. Kind of having to speed through this, but I'm over 90 minutes. So my big takeaway for the week is can San Diego Mesa beat Orange? Well, going into this week is can San Diego Mesa beat Orange Coast on the road this Wednesday? And is Golden West going forward with Long Beach City and going 5 with Santa Monica concerning, or is it expected? I mean, for Golden West, I kind of expected them to at least sweep Santa Monica. I'm surprised they had to go 5 after seeing Santa Monica get swept by OCC. I thought that Golden West would maybe have a little bit more of an easier time, but I don't know. Maybe Golden West is missing some players. I'll have to confirm with Nick Amato and maybe some of the other players. And then Long Beach City, they're still pretty solid. I don't think they're bad by any means, but they're just not like their past teams. And then Orange Coast, San Diego Mesa is going to be an instant classic. Some of these players that are playing on these junior colleges could be playing on your favorite NCAA men's volleyball team or NAIA men's volleyball team next year or in the near future. So you have that right there. All right, now we're going to move on to some high school boys volleyball. So the first full week of high school boys volleyball in Southern California came to a close. Miracosta made a huge impression as they wound up winning the Miracosta Redondo Union tournament hosted by Redondo Union High School and Miracosta High School. Miracosta took down Huntington Beach in the final, which Huntington Beach is not at full strength. Let's keep it a buck. The Oilers are not anywhere near full strength. They've got excuse me for 1 second. Sorry, I lose my voice a little. But Huntington Beach has 3 transfers out to a sit-out period, which is courtesy of the CIF. And they've also got a few players out to injury. Now, I expect Huntington Beach to be contenders, but Miracosta looks like they're on a whole other level. Grayson Bradford looks like him. He is a fantastic player. He was named MVP of the tournament. And it's not just him. Miracosta also has Mateo Furbringer, Charlie Furbringer's little brother. They've also got Thatcher Fallbush, who's committed to Grand Canyon, Cooper Keene, who's committed to USC, and a few other talented players as well. So good luck trying to take down that Miracosta team. Huntington Beach, I think, definitely has some great players as they have Logan Hutnick and Aiden Atencio to name a couple. Look, it's all about getting all their players on the court. And then there were some other notable matches that happened. I mean, Miracosta also beat Corona Del Mar, which is coached by former set point guest Katie Thompson. Loyola of Los Angeles, yes, Loyola of Los Angeles, not Chicago. They managed to go 2-0 last week. They took down Harvard Westlake, and they also took down Redondo Union in a 5-set barn burner, which I imagine that was an instant classic, just because those schools in the Manhattan Beach area, in the Redondo Beach area, Manhattan Beach, Pacific Palisades area are just one little big community. It's not as big as Miracosta, Loyola, but it's still just as big. Redondo Union, I think, is definitely going to be a team to watch for because they returned most of their team from last year's CIF Southern Section finalist team that wound up finishing just short against Santa Margarita in the CIF Southern Section Division II championship. And then also in the Tesoro tournament, this is a tournament that I would be PA announcing on Monday and attending on Saturday, but their semifinals consist of Beckman versus Tesoro and Edison versus San Clemente. San Clemente is another team that I think can definitely do wonders. Beckman, I also think can do really good as well. I forget the last name of this guy, but I think his first name is like Ben Morrison or something of that sort. He is definitely fantastic for Beckman, and I think Beckman is going to be riding the coattails of him. But they've got a lot of good, talented players on their roster as well. I think Beckman is going to be a sneaky good contender based off, and there are some other teams that are still trying to figure things out, like Newport Harbor. They're still trying to figure things out because they have an interim coach, but I am getting word that they are going to return one of their past coaches as an assistant coach to help out. So you have that right there. I mean, consider the Newport Harbor boys volleyball team stirred and not shaken. I think there's still plenty of volleyball left. This was only the first full week for certain teams, so I don't think we can definitely write them off. Write them off at your own peril. But I think this team I think Newport Harbor can definitely make some noise. Do I think they can be heavyweights like they were the last few years, aka 2022 and 2023? I don't know. That still remains to be seen. But it is what it is, and all we can just do is hope. So Luke Morrison is his name. So Luke Morrison is the big-time player. He's the captain for Beckman's boys volleyball team, and I think he's going to do big things for Beckman's team. And they also have a great head coach in Darren McBain. He's been coaching that team since God knows when. But I think this Beckman team can be something special. San Clemente, I expect to be really good. Edison's still trying to figure things out, and same with Tesoro, but it's great to see them in the semifinals, especially Tesoro. The last time Tesoro made the finals of their own tournament was 2019, so post-COVID pandemic. Well, way before the pandemic, because 2020, there was a Tesoro tournament, but unfortunately, that was kind of the only big major tournament outside of Best of the West. Speaking of which, that's going to be next week. So that's going to be next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend. Actually, no, I think it's going to be the following weekend if I'm doing my weekend correct. So this weekend is going to be the 28th and 1st of February and March. So yeah, it is going to be next week. So Best of the West is going to be next week. So there you have it right there. That is going to do it for some high school boys volleyball talk. And yeah, there's going to be, I guess, some notable matches this week. Newport Harbor at Servite. That's actually the alma mater of their interim coach, Matt Johnson. Loyola at Huntington Beach. That's going to be a fun one. Redondo Union hosting Mater Dei. Mater Dei had such a horrible weekend in Tesoro tournament, but you can say the same for Newport Harbor as well. Miracosta at Newport Harbor. I mean, maybe that could be a sneaky good matchup, but I just don't see Newport Harbor with how they're playing taking down a fully loaded Miracosta team like that. And then Servite, Corona Del Mar. I might try to go to that one, but I highly doubt it because, I got to pay to take a flight from Texas all the way down to Orange County and whatnot. So there you go. All right, but that is that for the notable matchups for the high school boys volleyball scene in terms of Southern California. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon. I greatly appreciate it. I'll try to hopefully cram this down a little bit more shorter next week. Until then, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action. And I'll see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!